Hi, Hannah here from Tula Being Online Yoga Studio. And today's practice is going to be a chair yoga practice. And you might be thinking, why the hell do I need a chair to do some yoga on? But you'll be surprised. This chair of ours is going to be utilized as a wonderful assistance in your practice. So hop on to a chair with a nice firm back and no armrests if you can. Let's start perched quite nicely to the edge of your chair, planting your feet a good hip width apart there on the earth. Spread your toes out. If you do have shoes on, I'd probably suggest that you whip those off if you can. You'll just sort of feel into the body a little bit more with ease there. You might like to invite the palms just to rest gently on top of the thighs, and if you're comfortable closing the eyes, go ahead and close the eyes down. Take a moment just to feel into the length of your spine. Notice how your head is balanced upon the shoulders and upon the pelvis and the hips. Make any adjustments that you might need here to feel a sense of evenness between left and the right side. Take a long and luxurious inhale through your nose. And a gentle sigh away. Big inhale through the nose. Open the mouth, sigh the breath away. Feel it leave the body. Let's go for one more of those. Inhaling through the nose. Gently out through the mouth. And then from here, just opening the eyes, reach the arms up towards the sky. Turn the gaze up, open up through the heart. Inhale. And then exhale, bending the elbows, just softly letting them relax down beside the body. Inhale, the hands will rise again. Let the heart open, lift. And then exhale, softly float the arms down. Let's do that again, one more time. Inhale, hands rise. This time bringing hands through heart space. Maybe pulling the thumbs just lightly towards the center of forehead. Feel the connection of touch of thumb to third eye space. A little gentle whisper of namaste towards yourself. You may notice that I never refer to namaste at the end of our practice, as it is actually a welcome rather than a goodbye. So a little gentle namaste towards each other, towards ourselves. Welcome. From here, releasing the hands down, go ahead and make sure that the feet feel really comfortable into the earth there. And then transition the weight in towards your left sitting bone, the left hip. And I am still sat quite forwards on my chair. I'm going to help guide the right ankle on top of that left knee. Now, this could be a tricky maneuver just in itself, trying to bring yourself into this shape. Often referred to as an open eagle leg or a figure of four shape happening. If we can, we'll keep that right foot flexed, the toes peeling back towards the knee, and just let the knee rest to whatever level that it can. So it might be that it's a whole lot higher. It might be that your foot can go a bit closer in and that feels more comfortable for you. I'm trying to keep my foot actually quite close towards my knee here. And then notice where the weight is between the two sit bones here. If you kind of started to drop and sway off to one side, you might kind of need to tilt yourself back through center. You might want to rest your hands lightly on top of that front shin there. And maybe this is enough. If you feel like there's a little bit more room to give, perhaps, and it depends where the foot on the ground is, I might even just wiggle it in a little bit, creep it a little bit further forwards, and then think about perhaps shifting the weight a little forwards. So for me, it's enough to actually just rest my forearms here. If you do feel like you've got more space, you could attempt to gently bow. I'm going to choose just to stay sort of that halfway point here. Lengthen through the neck. So perhaps I suggest just looking down here. Maybe you feel that you could close the eyes. Check whether you've really dropped heavy into that right hip. Could you find a sense of evenness between the two sit bones again? If it feels comfy for you to close the eyes, go ahead and close down the eyes for 3 more breaths. If you wanted to let the head lull, you might let it dip down, exaggerate the rounding of the back, and maybe even take a few little gentle nods, oscillations of the head if that feels right. And then slowly roll your way up, releasing that ankle. And it might be that you want to sort of raise up and down a few moments on the balls of the feet there, lifting and lowering, pointing the toes, lifting and lowering. And then when you feel ready, we'll swap it over to the other side. So just gently seeing what you can do on the other side. And no expectations here. It could be quite different in terms of your sensation, in terms of the available space. One side might feel a lot more spacious, a lot less spacious. Just going with the flow here. To begin with, I'm choosing just to stay nice and upright. You might rest the palms facing down. And then again, you'll sort of just test yourself out here in terms of where you might like to go. When I choose to lean forwards, I usually want to bring that foot on the ground a little bit more centered and then creep it a little bit further forwards. Especially if you're tilting the weight forwards, you don't want to feel like you're actually going to topple off the edge of your chair. If it feels okay to lean into that front shin, go for it. It might be that you need to back away a little bit or even actually hold on to the back of your chair. So don't be afraid to do that. I didn't offer that on the other side, but you might sort of feel that in here. Again, choose what you might like to do with the head. It could be that you feel like the head dipping down lower feels great. Maybe you're choosing a little gentle sway of the head. And always coming back to a steady rhythm of breath. And then slowly beginning to unravel. Roll your way up to stand. Go ahead and release that foot. Again, if it feels good to sort of lift the toes lower, maybe you do that a few times. If it's that you kind of want to sway the knees a little bit, you could do that too. So I'm going to invite you actually to come and stand and then just come to one side of your chair. So whatever it is, the leg that's closest to the back of your chair, you're going to hold on with one hand, or if you really needed to, two, but you might find that actually holding on with one is going to be easier. So the leg that's closest, actually, shall we do the other way? No, you know what? We're going to do the leg that's further away. So the one that's closest to the front edge of the chair, okay? So you're going to do your best to step it up onto your chair. So it might be that actually bringing your hand into the waist is going to help. Shift the weight into the foot that's closest to the back edge of the chair. Little bit of a bend, maybe find a little bit of buoyancy here, and then start to transition the weight into that standing foot. Could you swing? Oh, careful to do not what I did. I'm going to do that again. Let's see. I might step back. Apologies if you did the same thing. Big toes are useful. All right, swinging that foot up. So for some of us, that'll be super easy. For some of us, it really won't be. So take your time to try and shift the weight on up there. I'm going to bring my foot a little bit more to center and then bring the same hand upon that knee. Now, this might be far enough for you, and it could be that you'd like to at least start with the back heel to the ground. I'm going to slightly pivot the foot that's on the ground, the toes just slightly out to the edge. And then using hand on leg, hand on back of the chair, just feel into that lunge there. So for now, I'm choosing to keep the back heel down, and you're just going to a level that feels open and stable for you. So notice that I'm not kind of collapsing forwards here. I am seeing if I can be upright, and just check in with the height of your hips and the pelvis. And we have to be quite strong with that leg that's on the ground. We have to be quite strong with the leg that's on the chair here. If you feel like you could go that little bit further, I'm actually going to come right up onto the toes of the back foot. But for me, I probably want to be a bit further back. So I'm just going to do a little hop back of the foot that's on the ground. And then I'm going to see if I can start to lift and then perhaps let my hips sink a little bit further. So whatever feels comfortable with that front arm, it could be now that the forearm sort of rests, breathe. So don't worry if you haven't got the back heel off, you're just doing what you can. Now I have got some space between the inside of that foot that's on the chair and the back of the chair, and I'm going to bring my hands onto the chair. It might be that you need to just wiggle a bit more room and space for your foot and your hands. But seeing if you can now lower your hands onto the chair. You can't see a lot because I've got these big baggy pants on, but I've got my hands. You can see how little sunlight those white legs of mine have seen over Melbourne winter. Let's hide that again. If you do have more room to give, maybe there's room to drop down onto the forearms, but it's not a necessity. I'm going to go for just 2 more breaths. You might be with me still. And then press down into your chair, lift your way back up, and then start to push your hips back and forth a little bit. So just feeling it melting if you can. It might be that you've got your hands again on the back of the chair, hand on the thigh, to come back and forth a few times. If you wanted to pause somewhere, you could see if you can push the hips back, keeping the heel on the chair, perhaps holding onto the back of the chair or to the edge of the chair. See if you can peel the sit bones back. Maybe the foot on the floor is too far away. Mine's quite far away, so it might be that you need to just hop it in a bit closer, get to a point where you feel balanced here. Don't be afraid to have a bend still in that leg that's on the chair. Last breath here. And then it might be that you'd like to rebend the leg on the chair and help yourself off. Before we head on to the other side, lightly place your hands onto the chair. I've got my feet a good hip width apart, and then just see if you can start to sink a little bit. So I've got quite long hamstrings. I'm able to sink quite far. It could be that actually you want to go a bit further forwards and have your forearms to it. So it's a bit like a puppy pose, but adding long legs into it. Some of you might be further back and seeing if you can sink the heart. And breathe. Soften the knees as much or as little as you feel that you need. Last breath on this side. Maybe open up the mouth side out. And then maybe roll your way up, releasing from the chair. So I'm going to walk on over to the other side. Hand on the back of the chair, and then test yourself out. I think I made a big deal of it on the other side. Basically, we're trying to place our foot on top. So the foot that's further away from the back of the chair. And I want to bring it sort of somewhat more centered, but it's still towards the front edge of your chair. So for me, I want to probably bring my foot a little bit further back here. Check in with the hips and the pelvis. And for now, I'm just seeing if I can keep the back heel grounded, but you might turn the toes on the floor just slightly out towards the side. Not inwards, but outwards. For now, just feeling in the outer thigh, maybe into the back calf a little bit there on the ground. Just a couple more breaths. If you want to, you stay in this shape and you don't change it at all. Maybe just leaning in with the forearm rather than the hand, but trying not to sort of lean yourself forwards just yet. I'm going to see if I can lift my back heel. So for me, I want to actually hop the back foot a little bit further back. I know that I want a little bit more room there in my hips. And I'm trying to be quite strong and powerful through the back leg. If you need a bend, that's fine. But I'm going to see if I can straighten it a bit more and then still push away from that thigh. So it might not be that you have any space, but imagine that that front hip bone is trying to pull away from the thigh. So it isn't that I'm collapsing and laying on top of that thigh. I'm still quite upright. It's a strong dynamic pose. You should definitely feel something going on through the front of that back leg hip flexor. Probably just the strength of all your muscles having to engage and hold yourself here. And then if you wanted to, if you've got room, I'm bringing hands to the inside of that foot that's on top of the chair. Make some room for your hands. If you wanted to substitute length of your arms, you could even put a prop on the chair here, rest hands on top of it, or forearms on top of it. If you've got the room coming down onto the forearms there. Lizard lunge onto our chair. And just one more breath. And then pressing down into the chair, lifting your way up, and enough that you can bring the back heel down. I probably want to bring mine in a little bit closer. And it could be that you've kept your hands on the chair as you go back and forth here. Or if you need to be a little bit higher, hand on thigh, hand on the back of the chair, back and forth a few times. And then at some point, you'll come to pause in a nice long hamstring stretch. So if you want to bring the back foot in a little bit closer, maybe a little hop there. Nice sort of deep runner's lunge type pose. Perhaps hands on the chair, hands on the back of the chair, your choice. Lift yourself up high enough, bend the front leg, and then step the foot down. From here, feet a good hip width apart, maybe even wider. And then letting yourself sink. Remembering that you could be further forwards and just have the forearms on there, maybe interlacing the fingers. You're just seeing where your head can drop low. Creating an opening through the back of the heart there, through the front of the heart. Bend the knees as much as you need. And then slowly soften the knees and roll your way up to stand. We're going to come back towards our chair, perch on the edge of the chair. Hands rest on top of the thighs. Feel the earth beneath your feet once again. Feel the warmth of your leg beneath your palms. Take 3 more breaths. Thank you for joining our chair yoga practice today. Thumbs to heart, thumbs to forehead. I bow to you.